Girl discovers secret letter her adoptive parents kept hidden for 2 decades. Katie Poehler enjoyed a regular life while growing up in the small town of Hudsonville, Michigan. As a Chinese girl with white parents, her parents never hid the fact that they had adopted their little girl. However, Katie felt happy, so had no need to dig into her past. She had no idea who her birth parents were. All she knew was that they came from China. Furthermore, she didn't know how much they had sacrificed to protect her from dangers beyond their control. When they gave her up, Katie's birth parents included a heartbreaking letter with a tragic request for whoever adopted her. Unfortunately, Katie's biological parents kept the letter a secret to protect their new daughter. However, 2 decades later, the truth finally came to light. Afterward, Katie's life changed forever. Qian Fensheng, above left, and Xu Linda, above right, were just a couple of teenagers when they first met in their home of Baoying County in the province of Jiangsu, China. For the first few years, the two simply dated, getting to know each other. Then, in their early 20s, they married and started their lives together. Unfortunately, life didn't come as easy for them, as they had to work long hours to bring food to their table. However, Linda and Fensheng were hardworking people, and after they moved to the city of Hangzhou, they found a relatively good job. They had to live on the outskirts, but it was better than nothing. From there, the blessings kept coming. The couple was lucky enough to find a job in the scrap trade in the city of Hangzhou. They became even more fortunate when the business really took off in the 90s. Then they received even more good news. Fensheng was pregnant. Both wanted to start a family, so they felt ecstatic. For the first time since they married, things looked good. However, the only housing facility they were able to find was far away from the city. So when Fensheng went into labor with their first daughter, the father-to-be had no other alternative but to put his wife on the back of his tricycle. Then, Linda pedaled as fast as he could to the closest hospital. Even before the baby came, Linda proved himself one of the world's best dads. Despite all of the hardships the couple faced along the way, they couldn't help but feel joy for the arrival of their new baby girl, who they named Xiao Chen. She became the main reason why Linda and Fensheng kept trying to make the best out of every situation. Like most parents, they wanted to ensure their daughter enjoyed a better life than they did. The couple felt confident things would turn out for the best, so the new parents felt optimistic that they could give their baby girl a happy and fruitful life. However, the thought of raising her as an only child made them feel uncomfortable. Therefore, the pair took the life-changing decision to give Xiao Xin a sibling. Unfortunately, the couple was about to face yet another hurdle on the way. As a part of a birth planning program designed to control the size of China's population, the government implemented a one-child policy in 1979. In stark contrast to the freedom found in most countries, China enacted the ruthless law as a last-ditch effort to reduce population and poverty. Later, the government modified it slightly. Rural parents could have a second child, but only if the first was a girl. Some found this a step in the right direction. Others could not look past the modification's blatant sexism. Worse still, the punishments for breaking the law were just as ruthless and cruel. First-time offenders could expect steep, nearly unpayable fines, while repeat offenders risked sterilization. Thankfully, the government eliminated the policy at the end of 2015. However, at the time, China's one-child policy remained in place. Linda and Fensheng had already set their minds to the idea of conceiving a second child. However, there was only one problem: China's one-child policy. Still, regardless of the consequences that came along with having a second child in China, the couple believed they could get away with a second child, especially since they lived so far from any government eyes. "We thought we could get away with it since we lived so far away from the family planning cadres in our village," Sue later recalled. Unfortunately, they would learn no one can hide from the brutal regime. Sooner rather than later, they would face the consequences of their decision. In 1995, Fensheng found out she was pregnant with a second child. For a few minutes, the two discussed the possibility of terminating the baby, realizing the trouble they could get into. If anyone found out about the baby, their child would never get to see the light of day. However, they could not do it. "I would have felt so sorry if we had aborted her. I thought that even if we couldn't afford to raise her, we could give her away," Linda said to the South China Morning Post. Nevertheless, Linda and Fensheng needed to come up with a plan, and in time, they finally had one. During the pregnancy, Linda and Fen Shang lived their lives in terror, horrified that the police would discover them. Every night they worried that the authorities would come knocking on their door. While on the street, every single person could be a spy that would notice Fen Shang's baby bump. Paranoia took over their lives. So for the last 6 weeks of her pregnancy, Fen Shang maintained a low profile. They developed a pretty good plan. The mother hid on a secluded houseboat about 75 miles from Hangzhou, on the Suzhou Canal. There, the remaining weeks passed, and before they knew it, the scariest moment of their lives arrived. The birth presented the most dangerous part of the couple's journey. When Fen Shang's water broke, the pair knew they could not go to the hospital, or otherwise they might kill the baby at birth, so they needed to deliver the baby themselves. When the time came, Linda grabbed a pair of sterilized scissors with boiling water. Once again, proving himself an incredible father, Linda cut the umbilical cord. Afterwards, some complications with Fen Shang did arise. The couple found themselves needing to seek help from a physician. Thankfully, a doctor they knew took care of her without ever seeing their new child. While the friend knew what happened, he promised he would never tell another soul. Unfortunately, this solved few of Linda and Fen Shang's problems. Their second child was a girl, making things even more challenging. After Linda and Fen Shang held their newborn daughter, Katie, they knew they would do anything in their power to protect her, even if it meant sending her away. With the arrival of their new daughter, the couple decided to move ahead with their only option, putting Katie up for adoption. While it broke their hearts into 1,000 pieces, they knew it was the only thing that would keep Katie safe. So Linda and Fen Shang planned to take her to a nearby vegetable market where they would leave her in a covered popular place. They felt confident someone would find her. Linda and Fen Shang couldn't wait any longer if they wanted to ensure their daughter's safety. On the morning of the 3rd day she was born, I prepared her milk. I held her and hugged her for a while. Then I walked to the market. She didn't cry, she was asleep. I kissed her gently. I knew it was the final goodbye, recalled Fen Shang. Despite the immense pain they felt, the couple knew they made the right choice. If Katie remained in their care, she and their other daughter would remain in grave danger. This way, Katie would have a chance to grow up safe, and maybe, just maybe, the family would reunite in the future. In fact, Linda and Fen Shang had a plan to help them find their daughter in the future. Linda and Fen Shang knew that, in the future, their daughter might want to understand why her parents gave her up. They did not wish Katie to think they didn't want their beautiful daughter. Furthermore, she might want to meet them. So they came up with a plan to tell her everything she needed to know. The heartbroken couple decided to leave a letter with Katie to explain their decision and why they left things the way they did. Hopefully, the girl's adoptive parents would give her the message when the right time came. However, with little paper and less time, Linda and Fen Shang still needed to decide what to write in the letter. Linda and Fen Shang poured their emotions into a handwritten letter. They left it with their little girl along with a special request. Heartbroken, their request was the only thing that gave them hope. Maybe one day they would see their daughter again. Our daughter, Katie, was born at 10 a.m. on the 24th day of the 7th month of the lunar calendar, 1995, the letter began. We have been forced by poverty and affairs of the world to abandon her. Oh, pity the hearts of fathers and mothers far and near. Thank you for saving our little daughter and taking her into your care. If the heavens have feelings, if we are brought together by fate, then let us meet again on the broken bridge in Hangzhou on the morning of the GC festival in 10 or 20 years from now, it finished. So, just like that, Linda and Fen Shang left their daughter Katie at the vegetable market they selected. Thankfully, the couple was right, and someone found her soon after. The person who found her first brought her to a police station. Afterward, officials took Katie to the Suzhou's Children Welfare Institute, where they took over her case. The 3-day-old baby girl started growing up, getting healthier and stronger by each day. For a little over a year, the baby girl stayed in the case of the Suzhou Children Welfare Institute. However, shortly after her first birthday, everything changed for little Katie. Meanwhile, in America, there are over 2 million American parents actively looking to adopt. This means for every American child placed up for adoption, over 30 families are looking to adopt that child. So services often bring over children from other countries who need families. Bethany Christian Services, one of the most famous adoption agencies in America, frequently arranges visits to different orphanages in various countries for American couples. This time, the agency had arranged for 10 American couples to travel across the world and visit the Suzhou Children Welfare Institute. All 10 couples were looking to adopt daughters. As mentioned before, China's one-child policy favorited boys over girls, so the orphanage was filled with girls. Katie, a sweet 1-year-old, quickly caught one couple's particular attention. Ken and Ruth Poehler from Hudsonville, Michigan, joined Bethany Christian Services' trip to China. Despite already having 2 children of their own, the Poehlers felt determined to adopt a daughter. "We didn't really think it mattered which country we adopted from," Ken Poehler said. "But we have a brother-in-law who's Chinese, and Ruth's sister adopted from China too, which was neat." So the couple visited the Suzhou Children Welfare Institute, and when they laid eyes on little Katie, they instantly fell in love. They didn't waste any time, and soon Katie became their adopted girl. However, their new daughter did not come alone. Along with the adopted girl, the agency also gave the Poehlers Katie's birth parents' letter. Of course, they didn't speak Chinese, so the couple had no idea what the content of this letter was. Once they left the agency, the Poehlers asked their translator to read them the letter out loud. When the translator started reading the letter to the couple, they couldn't believe what it said. Ruth burst into tears, moved by Fenshang and Linda's heartfelt message, and she wasn't alone. The translator was so moved by it, she was in tears while she read it out to us, Ken commented. Despite them knowing the importance of it, the couple had to make a decision on whether or not they should show it to their daughter. After some hard thinking and deliberation, the couple felt the right thing to do was to keep the note a secret. They felt that letter would simply complicate their daughter's life, who would already have it hard as an adopted girl. In time, when she became more mature and able to understand, they would reveal the letter to her. The Poehlers believed that when Katie became an adult, she could receive the letter. Although it would likely still hurt, she might one day need to know. However, the Poehlers also agreed they would only show her the message if she became curious about her past. After Katie arrived at her brand new home in Hudsonville, Michigan, and while growing up, little Katie Poehler had no reason to question the world she grew up in. The Poehlers made sure she enjoyed a healthy, happy life in their small town. Her parents loved her just as dearly as she loved them. Growing up in Michigan, Katie enjoyed a typical American childhood, including plenty of friends, learning musical instruments, and playing multiple sports. As far as Katie's concerned, she was just another American kid. "I had a solid, good childhood," she said. "Everyone knew I was adopted, obviously, so I was never asked about it." In no time, Katie became a loved and accepted part of the entire Poehler family. Everyone adored the newly adopted girl and looked out for her. The Poehlers are also deeply religious people, so they attended church every week, strengthening Katie's core values. This also enabled Katie to become part of another tight-knit community. Katie is proud of the religious family she grew up in. As for her 2 elder brothers, she said, "My 2 brothers are quite a bit older. I guess if I felt different, it was because I was the youngest and I was a girl." Still, Katie's life got better and better with the Poehlers. As Katie grew, she became a beautiful young lady who excelled at nearly everything she did. Taking a peek into the Poehlers' family photo albums, we see plenty of photos like the one above. Katie traveling and enjoying life alongside her parents. She also regularly competed in track and field competitions, winning them often. However, she enjoyed some sports. Katie particularly loved playing the piano and viola. Still, she led an active life, outdoorsy life, and was always a happy and healthy kid, constantly playing with her brothers. She had everything she could ever ask for and more. Unfortunately, in time, Katie started to realize she didn't match everyone else. While she was happy and grateful for the family she grew up with, there were days Katie was curious about where she came from. However, Katie chose to keep most of the questions to herself, rather than asking her parents. She understood what adoption meant and could put 2 and 2 together. Still, sometimes Katie could not help but ask questions. Sometimes Katie would ask her mother, "Did I come from your tummy?" And Ruth would answer, "No, you didn't come from my tummy. You came from a lady's tummy in China. But you came from my heart. You were born in my heart." Katie seemed satisfied with her mother's response, so she'd run off and get preoccupied with something else. Meanwhile, back in China, time marched on as if nothing happened. Katie's biological parents opened a second-hand electric appliance store. Linda and Fenshang worked tirelessly, week after week, to support their eldest daughter and themselves. Over the years, the couple saved up enough money for a 2-bedroom apartment after years of living in poverty. On the outside, it might have seemed like they forgot all about Katie. However, Linda and Fensheng never forgot their beautiful daughter for a minute, nor the promise to meet again one day. The letter specified they would be waiting on the broken bridge on the day Qixi Festival. So in 2005, without knowing if their daughter would be there, the couple maintained their promise. Linda and Fensheng prayed that Katie's adoptive parents had received the note and they would honor their wish to see their daughter again. On Katie's 10th birthday, the family went to the bridge with the hope that they might finally see their baby girl again, after a decade of being apart. We got there early and carried a big sign with our daughter's name and words similar to those we used in the original note, Linda told BBC. He also recalled how awful waiting felt. The hours slowly passed by. Linda said he wanted to run up to every little girl they saw on the bridge. Unfortunately, all they could do was wait with hope. Katie's birth parents waited patiently the whole day. However, by the time 4 p.m. rolled around, they had the feeling no one was coming. Soon after, the couple decided to head back home. They felt horribly defeated, but they were not ready to give up yet. After all, this only marked Linda and Fensheng's first trip to the bridge. They had no idea that the Polars had indeed received the note with the adopted girl. Furthermore, they hadn't ignored Linda and Fensheng's request. All the way across the globe, the couple had been talking to a friend of theirs who often traveled to China for business. Katie's adoptive parents came up with a plan to let the birth parents know their daughter was safe. Unfortunately, they were too late. The Polars wanted to let Katie's birth parents know their daughter was adopted by a family who adored her, and she was in a good home. So they turned to a family friend who often traveled to China for business. In turn, he had a friend named Annie Wu, who could and would help the Polars get a message to Katie's parents. They asked Wu to go to the broken bridge and find Linda and Fensheng. Meanwhile, they elected not to tell Katie, not wanting to involve her, as she had never really asked about her parents. Sadly, Linda and Fensheng had already left by the time Annie Wu got to the bridge. She looked around for any distressed-looking parents, but with no luck. However, when Wu was just about to leave, she noticed something that captured her attention. As Wu started to depart the bridge, she spotted a news crew filming a piece about the ongoing festival. Wu decided to approach them and ask if she could review their video to see if she could find Katie's birth parents. The crew, touched by the story of this adopted girl, immediately agreed. Wu's quick thinking paid off rather quickly. While reviewing the footage, she managed to spot Katie's parents standing on the bridge, holding up a big sign with their daughter's name on it. Soon the news crew started to focus on the tragic yet incredible story of a Chinese couple forced to give up their daughter at birth. The news crew decided to share Linda and Fensheng's story in both television and newspapers. Fortunately, one of the couple's friends from Hangzhou saw a report on television and reached out to them. From there, Linda and Fensheng contacted the news station and made plans to meet Annie Wu. Linda and Fensheng felt so thrilled that they rushed into the news station to meet Wu. When they met, Wu gave them a couple pictures of their daughter and a letter from the Polars, assuring them they would be in touch again. Katie's birth parents felt reassured that Katie was fine. However, they were eager to hear more about their adopted girl. Little did they know that would not be possible. When the Polars found out that their story had been broadcast across China, they weren't happy at all. They backed out and decided that, at this point, the best was to break ties with Annie Wu and Katie's birth parents. The Polars believed Katie was still too young to handle all of this. They didn't want to confuse the adopted girl by bringing her past into her present. We took what we could from Annie and saw no more need for contact. We thought that we should wait for Katie to grow and see if she wanted more information. She's our daughter. Yes, she has her birth parents, but a deeper relationship with them would really complicate matters, Ruth later said. Linda and Fensheng were heartbroken when they learned that the Polars no longer had any interest in meeting again. However, they didn't want to give up and continued to visit the broken bridge every Qixi festival for another 10 years. Since 2004, I have visited the broken bridge every year. I knew there wasn't much hope, but I still kept waiting, Linda told the South China Morning Post. In their eyes, they still had another chance. In the letter, they also specified they should meet on the bridge when Katie turned 20 years old. They decided to continue to arrive at the bridge every Qixi festival until their last day, even if she never showed up. However, something miraculous was about to happen that would change the course of events to their favor. Another chance for Katie's birth parents presented itself some 10 years later. A documentary filmmaker, Sheng Chengfu, was making a short film on Chinese children adopted when a friend told him about Linda and Fensheng's story. He found the story moving and believed he could track down Katie's adoptive parents. Chang Fu also reached out to Linda and Fen Sheng, meeting them. After seeing their desire to see their daughter, he was determined to track down the Polars at all cost. He began searching through the internet for any mention of a Chinese girl adopted by Americans in Michigan. Unfortunately, nothing turned up. Still, Chang Fu remained persistent and kept trying. Luckily, after meticulous research, Chang Fu did find an online message board for American parents with adopted children from Sushu's Children Welfare Institute. That's where he spotted a message from a Ken Polar mentioning his daughter had a knee problem from rheumatoid arthritis. Chang Fu did some more digging and found a picture of Ken online that matched the man in the photo Annie Wu had given to Katie's birth parents. He tracked the Polars down, but they were reluctant to participate in the film. They decided not to stir up Katie's past and therefore turned down the offer of meeting Linda and Fen Sheng on the broken bridge. Once again, it seemed as though Linda and Fen Sheng would never see their daughter again. Meanwhile, overseas, Katie had no idea what was going on. All this time, she graduated from high school and then attended Calvin College, dual majoring in public health and music. After turning 21 years old, Katie decided to move to Spain for a semester as an exchange student. She realized her new classmates might be curious about her origins, but she had no idea where she came from. It was at that moment she decided it was time to have a chat with her parents and ask them if they had any information about her past. Without knowing, Katie began a path that she could never turn back from. The Polars had said that if Katie ever became interested in her past, they wouldn't hide the truth from her. Furthermore, Katie now seemed old enough to handle the sensitive information. While they were in the car one day, Katie decided to pop the question, "What do you know about my adoption?" After all the years, Katie's mother decided to tell her about her past as an adopted girl. "Well, we should tell you that we actually know who your biological parents are," said Ruth. This rocked Katie's world. The adopted girl could not believe they had kept the information from her for so long. Meanwhile, Katie could also not help but feel terrified at the prospect of meeting her birth parents. No surprise, it took Katie quite some time to sort through everything inside her head. After taking some time, Katie reached out to Chang Fu and told him she wanted to meet her birth parents. Afterward, Chang Fu arranged a meeting between the adopted girl and her birth parents at the Shiki Festival on August 28, 2017. Chang Fu also made some other plans to fill out his documentary. A couple days before, he met Katie at the vegetable market where her parents had left her. It blew her mind thinking how far she had come before she could even talk. After seeing where she started her journey, all that Katie had left to do was meet her parents. This adopted girl would finally meet her parents after so many years. However, while everyone felt excited, they also had some fears and reservations. I think my biggest fear in meeting my biological family is that somehow I'll disappoint them more. In a lot of ways, obviously, they feel like they've let me down, but I also know how much pain they've gone through, Katie shared in the days before the meeting. However, although she didn't know it, Katie's birth parents felt the exact same. What can I say to her when we meet? Would it help to say sorry? No. 10,000 sorries wouldn't be enough, Linda said to BBC. On the other hand, Fen Sheng, who was feeling very emotional, knew how she would react. I will absolutely and uncontrollably throw myself at her and beg her forgiveness. The reality was, nothing could prepare them for the meeting they had waited for. Chang Fu wanted to prevent Linda and Fen Sheng from seeing Katie before the scheduled reunion. However, Annie Wu was back in the picture and let them know Katie had already arrived in China. Excited, they rushed to her hotel. However, Katie turned them down, feeling too overwhelmed. She needed more time. The couple felt hurt, but they knew they would get their chance soon at the broken bridge. When Katie went to the bridge to meet her birth parents, Fen Sheng couldn't help to break down and sob while clinging onto her daughter. "I've finally seen you. Mommy is sorry," Fen Sheng exclaimed. "You look so much like your mom, but you don't know what I'm saying," Linda said, realizing Katie couldn't speak Mandarin. 22 years after her birth, Katie finally got to meet her biological parents. After the meeting, they invited her to stay for 2 days in her sister Zhao Chen's room. All this time, Katie didn't even know she had a sister. During their time together, she tried her best to communicate with the little English Zhao Chen knew. Linda and Fen Sheng also took Katie to their hometown, where she met her grandmother, who had suffered a severe stroke a few years ago. As soon as her grandmother saw her, she held Katie's hand. Katie was surprised by how emotional Fen Sheng was, but she understood the reason why. They were just super excited and missed looking after me all these years. They were stuck in a system that was so broken. I think there were just a lot of small moments where I saw how much they really cared. the adopted girl recalled. Over time, little problems crept up. For instance, Linda and Fen Shang felt hurt that Katie didn't call them mom or dad. However, Katie said that in America, kids call their parents by their first name. It was an innocent lie, as the adopted girl didn't want to hurt her biological parents' feelings. However, at that time, she still had a difficult time viewing them as parents. There were also some culture shocks. Fen Shang couldn't believe Katie worked to earn extra money, as her sister, Xiao Chen, had never worked. "My Xiao Chen here has never had to wash a single bowl," she said to Katie. "We still feel so much guilt. If we hadn't abandoned her, she wouldn't have to suffer so," Fen Shang commented in an interview. Equally, when Katie learned how much poverty her parents had to endure as migrant workers, it seemed light years away from the childhood she experienced. Katie's Asian identity was solely based on her appearance until she was able to visit China. Now it's deeper than that. "It's good that I am more in touch with where I came from, but it is also confusing. I am a product of where I grew up, and that is not Asian in any sense of the word," she said. Katie felt a little disconnected from her parents as they don't speak English, and she can't speak a word of Mandarin. However, she does want to build a relationship with Linda and Fen Shang. While her biological parents are proud of the woman she grew up to be, they were also sad when she had to go back to America. They felt grateful to get to see her again, yet they felt desperate to spend time with Katie after so long. Nowadays, Katie Poehler is still an adopted girl getting used to the idea of having two sets of parents. Linda and Fen Shang have promised they would be patient, while Ruth and Ken are happy she found her way back to them. "We love her dearly and she knows that. We haven't lost anything today. We're just happy for her," Ken said. Fen Shang also shared her thoughts on the entire situation. "Now that we have met her, we miss her even more than before. I guess we can only tell ourselves she is like a daughter who has been married off. One thing we know for sure is Katie is surrounded by love. The love is almost overwhelming. I know my adoptive parents love me, and now I have this whole other love that I never knew existed, but I guess was always there."